I found out my fiancé was living a second life 3 days before his parents' engagement party by booking him for a date. Not by snooping through messages the way people expect, not by catching a lipstick stain or a late night call. I found out because I sat on the edge of a hotel bed with his mother and father behind me, waiting for the man I loved to knock on the door and explain why he was charging strangers thousands of dollars while the ring he gave me was still sitting on my finger. 6 months earlier, he'd proposed. We'd been together 3 years. He knelt, hands shaking, voice cracking, and told me I was his future. I said yes. I cried. I posted the photos. Everyone cheered. I believed we were building something real. Then, 2 weeks ago, my laptop died while I was trying to print a document for work. His computer was right there. He was in the shower. No big deal. The printer froze, so I checked the print queue, and that's when I saw it. A PDF receipt. A premium membership renewal for a website called Elite Arrangements. I clicked without thinking. Professional photos I had never seen before. Carefully lit, polished. A bio describing him as discreet, refined, available for upscale companionship. Rates listed cleanly, like a menu. $800 for dinner dates. $2,500 for overnight arrangements. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just stared at the screen. My chest felt hollow, like all the air had been pulled out at once. 10 minutes passed, maybe more. Long enough for the truth to sink in and quietly rearrange everything I thought I knew about the man I was supposed to marry. The receipt showed he'd been paying for that membership for over a year, since before we got engaged. My hands started shaking then. I took screenshots of everything, the profile, the messages, the reviews, the scheduled dates. I emailed them to myself, cleared the browser history, and shut the laptop. When he came out of the shower, towel around his waist, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong, I acted normal. Asked about his day, kissed him goodnight. He had no idea. Over the next 2 days, I didn't confront him. I dug. I created a burner email, built a fake profile, paid almost $500 in fees and verification charges just to get access. And there he was. His profile, his reviews. Strangers rating their experiences with him like he was a service. Some of the comments made me feel physically sick, but I kept reading, kept documenting, building proof. Then I did something that felt insane and absolutely necessary. I booked him. A dinner date followed by private time. $3,000. Friday night. The hotel he specified. 2 days before the engagement party his parents were throwing for us. He accepted within an hour. The confirmation message was polite, detached, professional. He sent the hotel name and room number and said he was looking forward to meeting me. I stared at my phone, my pulse pounding in my ears. And that's how I ended up there, sitting in a quiet hotel room with his parents, waiting for a knock that would shatter everything we were pretending to build. Before everything fractured, before hotel rooms and screenshots and lies stacked on top of each other, there was a very ordinary beginning. We met 3 years ago at a friend's birthday dinner, one of those loud, crowded restaurants where conversations overlap and you don't expect anything meaningful to happen. I almost didn't go. I was tired, fresh off a long work week, already rehearsing my excuse text when my friend called and begged, "Just show up for one drink." He was sitting across the table from me, leaning in to hear someone else talk, smiling in that effortless way that makes you feel included even when you aren't part of the conversation yet. When our eyes met, he held my gaze a second longer than polite. Not aggressive, just curious. Later, outside the restaurant, he offered to walk me to my car. We talked about nothing important, traffic, mutual friends, how the city felt smaller than it used to. Before I left, he asked for my number like it was the most natural thing in the world. Our first date was coffee that turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a long walk. He asked thoughtful questions. He remembered small details. He listened. When he laughed, it was full-bodied, unguarded. I remember thinking, this feels easy. And it was, for a long time. He showed up consistently. Good morning texts, checking in before big meetings, sitting beside me at family gatherings, hand warm on my knee under the table. He talked about the future early, not in a reckless way, but confidently. Where we might live, the kind of home he wanted, the life he imagined building. I didn't feel rushed. I felt chosen. We moved in together after a year, my place. He brought his clothes, his books, his routines. He fit into my life smoothly, like he'd always been there. We argued sometimes about money, about expectations, but nothing that felt dangerous, just normal relationship friction. Looking back now, I can see the patterns forming. How he talked about lifestyle, standards, wanting more, how he'd scroll through social media, pausing on luxury vacations, designer things, lives that looked curated and expensive. I chalked it up to ambition. He worked. He contributed. He never asked me to bankroll him. If anything, he framed himself as independent, proud. That mattered to me. I respected it. When he proposed, it felt like a natural next step. We were stable, comfortable, in love, or at least what I believed was love. He planned it carefully, got down on one knee, voice shaking, told me he couldn't imagine his life without me. The ring was custom, non-refundable, thoughtful, heavy in my hand. I said yes without hesitation. The months after were filled with planning conversations, guest lists, venues. His parents were involved, excited, supportive. His mother cried when she saw the ring. His father hugged me and called me family. I felt safe. That's the part that hurts the most now. Not that I was fooled, but that I trusted. That I built a future on what I thought was honesty. That while I was picturing vows and shared holidays, he was living an entirely separate life I wasn't supposed to see. There were no obvious warning signs, no dramatic shifts, no sudden coldness, just small things I brushed aside because love teaches you to give the benefit of the doubt. And I would have kept doing that, kept believing, if my laptop hadn't died at exactly the wrong moment. Even before I found the receipt, there were moments that didn't quite settle right in my body. Tiny flickers of discomfort I dismissed almost as soon as they appeared. He guarded his phone more than he used to. Not in an obvious, guilty way, just small shifts, angling the screen away, locking it the second he set it down, laughing at messages he didn't explain. When I asked who it was, he'd shrug and say, "Just someone from work," or "group chat nonsense." I told myself I was being paranoid. We were engaged. We lived together. Why would I question that? There were nights he came home later than usual, smelling faintly of hotel soap instead of his usual cologne. I noticed once, standing close as he brushed past me to drop his keys. The scent was clean, impersonal, like a place you don't belong to. "Long day?" I asked. "Yeah," he said easily. "Meetings ran late." No defensiveness, no hesitation, just calm. I believed him. Sometimes he'd dress differently when he went out alone. Sharper, more deliberate. Clothes he didn't wear when it was just the two of us grabbing dinner. Once I teased him about it. "Who are you trying to impress?" He smiled, kissed my cheek. "You, always you." The answer was smooth enough to quiet the question, but not the feeling. The biggest shift was his relationship with money. Not spending recklessly, but talking about it constantly. What things should cost. What kind of wedding was acceptable. What kind of honeymoon he deserved. Bora Bora came up more than once. So did designer labels. Experiences that signaled status. When I suggested simplifying, scaling back, he'd tense slightly. "I don't want us to look cheap," he said once, not unkindly. "This is supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime thing." The word stayed with me. Look cheap. I noticed how much he cared about appearances, about how we were perceived, how often he curated his online presence, selecting photos carefully, editing captions until they felt just right. He'd take pictures of me sometimes and never post them. Other times, he'd post cryptic quotes about ambition, independence, living life on your own terms. I liked his confidence. I told myself that was all it was. There were also absences I couldn't account for. Small windows of time where his explanations were vague. Errands that took longer than they should have. Last-minute schedule changes. He never over-explained, which made it harder to poke holes in anything he said. Looking back, that was part of the strategy. He didn't lie loudly. He lied efficiently. The night before my laptop died, we lay in bed, scrolling on our phones. He laughed at something, turned his screen away from me instinctively, then caught himself and relaxed. "Sorry," he said lightly. "Habit." I laughed it off, but my chest tightened in a way I didn't understand yet. I trusted him enough to ignore the signs, loved him enough to explain them away. I was already committed, to the ring, to the plan, to the version of him I thought I knew. By the time the first real piece of evidence appeared on his screen, the ground had already been quietly shifting beneath my feet. I just hadn't noticed how close I was to the edge. The moment everything truly detonated didn't come with shouting or tears. It came quietly, on a screen, while the shower ran in the background and steam crept under the bathroom door. My laptop had died mid-print. Battery gone, no warning. I sighed, glanced toward the bathroom where I could hear the water running and reached for his computer instead. It was already open. I didn't feel like I was crossing a line. We shared a home, a bed, a future. The printer stalled. I clicked the print queue to see what was wrong. That's when the file name caught my eye. A PDF receipt. Not a utility bill, not a work invoice. Something else. Clean formatting. Professional logo. Elite arrangements. Premium membership renewal. I clicked it without thinking. And the world tilted. His face stared back at me from the screen. But not the version I knew. These were professional photos. Carefully styled. Controlled lighting. A polished smile that felt practiced rather than familiar. Below the photos was a bio. Sophisticated, discreet, available for upscale companionship. I felt my pulse jump, then stall. I scrolled. Rates: $800 for dinner dates, $2,500 for overnight arrangements. My hands went cold. For a moment, I honestly thought there had to be some explanation I just wasn't seeing yet. A scam, someone using his photos, anything but the truth sitting in front of me. Then I saw the charge history. $300 a month, renewed, again and again. Over a year, since before the proposal. I stared at the screen, unmoving, my breath shallow. 10 minutes passed, maybe more, while my brain tried to catch up to what my eyes already knew. I checked the browser history, logins, messages, conversations neatly time-stamped, arrangements scheduled days, sometimes hours, apart. One upcoming appointment stood out. 3 days from now. I felt sick, but still not angry, just hollow, like something essential had been removed without warning. I started documenting. Screenshots of the profile, the rates, the reviews, actual reviews from clients, casually evaluating him like a service, messages confirming bookings, dates, hotels. I emailed everything to myself, one file after another, methodical and quiet. When I was done, I cleared the browser history and closed the laptop exactly how I'd found it. The shower turned off. I stood up, smoothed my face, practiced a neutral expression in the dark reflection of the screen. When he walked out, towel slung low on his hips, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong, I asked about his day. He kissed my cheek, told me about traffic, about work. I smiled. I listened. That night I didn't sleep. The next 2 days passed in a strange fog. I moved through routines on autopilot while something sharp and focused formed underneath the shock. I didn't confront him. I investigated. I created a burner email, built a fake profile on the site, paid the verification fees. Nearly $500 just to gain access. And there he was. His full profile, his reviews. Strangers describing private moments I was never meant to know about. My stomach twisted, but I kept going, kept saving, kept building proof. Then I did the thing that changed everything. I booked him, used my fake profile, requested a dinner date followed by private time, offered $3,000. Chose Friday night, 2 days before the engagement party his parents were hosting for us. He accepted within an hour. The confirmation message was polite, professional, emotionless. He sent the hotel name, the room number, said he was looking forward to meeting me. I stared at my phone, heart pounding. And in that moment, I knew this was no misunderstanding. This was a double life, and I was about to end it. After I booked him, the shock finally gave way to something heavier. Not rage, not yet. Control. I moved through the next 48 hours with a calm that felt almost artificial, like my body had decided panic would be useless. I still went to work, still answered emails, still nodded through conversations that suddenly felt far away, muffled, like I was underwater. At night, I lay beside him in bed, staring at the ceiling while he slept easily next to me. His arm would sometimes drape over my waist, familiar and automatic, and I'd feel my chest tighten. Not from longing, but from the weight of knowing exactly who he was while he believed I knew nothing. I replayed everything in my head, every excuse I'd accepted, every moment I'd brushed off as insignificant. I wondered how many times he'd kissed me after coming back from someone else's hotel room, how often he'd looked me in the eye and told me he loved me, fully aware of the lie. Still, I didn't confront him. The script in my mind was clear. If I went to him with suspicion, he'd deny it. If I went to him with evidence, he'd minimize it. He'd cry. He'd accuse me of invading his privacy. He'd twist the narrative until I was the problem. I knew that because I had already seen the first version of it in the messages he sent to clients. Calm, detached, transactional. A man who knew how to control tone, emotion, perception. So I stayed quiet. Instead, I made plans. I called his father first. We'd always had a good relationship, easy conversations, mutual respect. I asked if he and his wife could meet me for coffee Thursday evening. I told him I wanted to discuss something important about the wedding. He sounded pleased, excited even. They arrived smiling, ready to talk about seating charts and floral arrangements. His mother reached for my hand, asking how I was holding up with all the planning stress. I took a breath. "This isn't about the wedding," I said. "I need to show you something." The smile faded instantly. I pulled out my phone and handed it across the table. Screenshots, his profile, his rates, the reviews, the receipts. His father's face went through something like disbelief, then anger, then a kind of stunned emptiness. His mother covered her mouth, tears welling as she scrolled. "When did you find this?" his father asked, voice shaking. "Last week," I said. "I've verified everything. It's real. He's been doing this for over a year." "Does he know you know?" his mother whispered. "No," I said, "and tomorrow night I'm going to confront him, but I need you there." They looked at me, confused and horrified. "Why?" his mother asked. "Because he's going to deny it," I said calmly. "He's going to lie, manipulate, and try to turn this on me. I need witnesses, people who love him but can't ignore evidence." They didn't answer right away. His mother cried quietly. His father stared into his coffee like it might explain something. Finally, he nodded. "We'll be there." Friday night came too fast. We arrived at the hotel early. His parents sat rigidly, his father in the desk chair, his mother pacing near the window. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my hand, recording app ready, my heart beating steady and loud in my chest. At 7:28 p.m., there was a knock. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. He was standing there in a fitted black outfit, groomed, confident, completely unfamiliar. "Hi," he started, then froze. His eyes moved from my face to the room behind me, to his parents. The color drained from his face. "What is this?" he demanded. "Come in," I said quietly. "We need to talk." And just like that, the man I thought I was going to marry walked into the moment he could no longer escape. The door clicked shut behind him, soft and final. For a split second, he just stood there, eyes darting, jaw tight, calculating. I could almost see the gears turning in his head, searching for an angle, a version of reality he could sell fast enough to survive this. "What is this?" he asked again, sharper now. "Why are my parents here?" "You're here for an appointment," I said evenly, "with a high-roller client." He let out a short, incredulous laugh. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" I asked. "Because I booked you." The room went very still. I held up my phone. "I have the confirmation message, the profile, your rates. Do you want me to read some of the reviews out loud?" His eyes flicked to his parents. "This is insane," he said quickly. "She's lying. I don't know what she's talking about." His father stood up from the chair. "Stop. Just stop. We've seen everything." "Everything," his mother echoed softly. "The profile, the messages, all of it." He shook his head, backing toward the door like it might save him. "She went through my computer. She invaded my privacy. She probably made fake accounts to frame me." "With your photos?" his mother asked. "With detailed reviews going back months?" Something in his expression shifted. The panic dulled, replaced by irritation. "You went through my laptop," he snapped at me. "You spied on me. And now you're ambushing me with my parents? This is emotional abuse." I actually laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Short, sharp, disbelieving. "I'm abusing you?" I said. "You've been meeting strangers for money while planning our wedding." "I was doing research," he said quickly, "for a blog about modern dating culture." His father shook his head slowly. "You charge people $2,500. That's not research." "I needed authentic experiences," he insisted. "I was going to expose these men." The lies were unraveling faster now, piling on top of each other. I pulled up another screenshot. "Your last review was posted 3 days ago. A client named Theodore. He said worth every penny. Sweet, attentive, discreet. Already booked another date." "That's fake," he said immediately. "You replied to him," I said. "You thanked him for the review and said you were looking forward to next time." Silence. Then his face crumpled and the tears came, real this time, loud, desperate. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under," he said, voice breaking. "Your salary is fine, but I have standards. I deserve nice things." There it was. "So you've been doing this because I don't make enough money," I said quietly. I didn't want it to come to this, he said, but the wedding costs, the dress I wanted, the honeymoon expectations. I suggested a simpler wedding, I cut in. You insisted on the expensive venue. Because I deserve it, he shot back. His mother gasped. We're paying for the venue. Well, I needed contributions for everything else, he said defensively. The dress is $6,000. The honeymoon should be Bora Bora, not some cheap beach. His father looked like he'd been slapped. So you decided to sell yourself? He asked, stunned. Don't say it like that, my fiancé snapped. It's my body, my choice. You're all being judgmental. You're engaged, his mother shouted. You were sleeping with other people while engaged to her. It wasn't personal, he said. It was transactional. It didn't mean anything. I stared at him, my hands finally starting to shake. Did you actually just say that? I asked. That sleeping with other people for money doesn't count? Yes, he said sharply. God, you're all so close-minded. I stood up. I need you to leave. What? Get out, I said. We're done. The engagement is over. You can't just... I absolutely can. You cheated on me for over a year and defended it. This is because you're insecure, he snapped. You can't handle that I'm desirable. His father grabbed his arm. Enough. We're leaving. No, he protested. You don't understand. She's controlling. This is financial abuse. You have a job, I said. A good one. This isn't about need. It's about greed. He looked to his parents for support. His mother was crying. How could you do this? How could you lie to us? Oh, please, he scoffed. You raised me to expect more, to never settle. I just did what I had to do to get the life I wanted. The entitlement hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. We're leaving, his father said flatly. You're coming with us. I'm not going anywhere, my fiancé said. I'm an adult. Then act like one, his father snapped. They left, voices raised in the hallway, his accusations echoing after them. I stayed behind, alone in the hotel room, sitting on the edge of the bed where everything finally collapsed. After they left, the room went unnaturally quiet. No voices in the hallway anymore, no footsteps, just the low hum of the air conditioner and the faint city noise bleeding in through the window. I sat on the edge of the bed, exactly where I'd been when it all exploded, and finally let my body catch up to what had happened. My hands were shaking now. Not violently, just enough that I had to lace my fingers together to steady them. My throat felt tight, like I'd swallowed something sharp. I stared at the carpet, tracing patterns with my eyes, replaying the last hour on a loop I couldn't shut off. I hadn't cried yet. That scared me more than the tears. I stayed there for almost an hour, doing nothing, not checking my phone, not standing up, just sitting with the weight of it. 3 years collapsing into one hotel room confrontation. Every memory recontextualized. Every I love you now sounding rehearsed. Every future plan suddenly absurd. Eventually, I stood. My legs felt weak, like they might not hold. I packed up slowly, methodically, the way you do when you don't trust yourself to think too far ahead. Checked out without explanation. The front desk clerk smiled and wished me a good night. I nodded back, stunned by how normal the world still looked. When I got home, the apartment felt wrong. His shoes by the door, his jacket over the chair, the toothbrush next to mine in the bathroom, evidence of a life that no longer existed but hadn't gotten the message yet. That's when it hit. I slid down the wall in the hallway and finally cried, quietly at first, then harder. Not sobbing, not dramatic, just tears leaking out while my chest tightened and my breathing went uneven. Grief, shock, humiliation, rage, all tangled together in a way I couldn't separate. I felt stupid, not because of what he'd done, but because I'd believed him, because I'd defended him, because I'd worn that ring proudly while he was out negotiating prices with strangers. By the time I stood up again, something inside me had hardened. I grabbed boxes from the closet and started packing his things. Shirts folded too carefully, shoes lined up, books stacked. I didn't throw anything. I didn't destroy anything. I just removed him, piece by piece, from the space that had been mine first. My phone buzzed. A message from him. This didn't have to happen like this. You humiliated me. You set me up. I didn't respond. Another buzz. My parents won't talk to me. You turned them against me. I stared at the screen, my jaw clenched, then set the phone face down and kept packing. Later that night, I lay alone in the bed we'd shared for over a year. The sheets smelled like him. I didn't change them. I didn't sleep much either. My mind kept replaying his words. Transactional, standards, deserve, like they were etched into my skull. By morning, exhaustion had replaced shock. And beneath it, something darker settled in. He wasn't sorry. He was angry he'd been caught. And I knew, deep in my bones, that the worst part wasn't over yet. The shift didn't happen all at once. It happened quietly, in pieces, over the next few days, each one stripping away the last illusion I had that he might take responsibility. The morning after the hotel confrontation, his father called me. His voice sounded older somehow, tired, like the weight of the night before hadn't lifted when the sun came up. "We canceled everything," he said. "The engagement party, the venue. We told people there was a family emergency." I closed my eyes, relief and sadness crashing together in my chest. "Thank you," I said. Then, after a pause, "I need to ask, are you going to tell people what really happened?" There was a sigh on the other end of the line. "He's already telling his version," his father admitted. "Says you called off the wedding because you're controlling, that you isolated him, that you went through his private messages and set him up." Of course he was. "I have proof," I said calmly. "Screenshots, messages, his profile. I'm not interested in humiliating him publicly, but I won't accept being painted as an abuser." "I understand," his father said. "His mother and I, we're devastated. We don't recognize the man we raised. The entitlement, the lying, we're so sorry." "So, you don't need to apologize for his choices," I said, and I meant it. That afternoon, he showed up at the apartment with his best friend. He didn't knock, just unlocked the door like he still belonged there. "You can't just kick me out," he announced. "I live here." "Your name isn't on the lease," I said evenly. "You moved in with me, and now you're moving out." "This is illegal," he snapped. "I have tenant rights." I handed him the printed document I'd prepared. "I spoke to a lawyer this morning," I said. "You've been here less than a year. You don't pay rent, and you committed infidelity. You have 30 days to retrieve your belongings." His friend stepped in immediately. "You're really going to throw him out over one mistake?" "One mistake that lasted over a year," I said, "that he charged money for and defended." He turned back to me, eyes wet now. "I loved you. I was going to marry you." "While meeting other people for money," I said. "Don't rewrite history." "That was just business," he insisted. "It didn't mean anything." "Then you should have told me," I said. "We could have had a conversation. You didn't because you knew I wouldn't accept it." His friend tried again. "He's sorry. He wants to fix this." "He's not sorry," I said quietly. "He's sorry he got caught." They left with some of his clothes. His friend glared at me the whole time. The turning point came on Sunday, the day the engagement party was supposed to happen. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Mutual friends texting, confused, curious. "What happened? He says you called it off out of nowhere. Did you really track his phone?" I sent the same reply every time. "He's lying. I have proof. If he wants to tell the truth, he knows where to find me." That night, his mother called. "He's telling everyone you're abusive," she said, voice breaking. "We tried to stop him. He won't listen." "I know," I said. "We're going to tell people the truth," she continued. "Our family, our friends. We won't let him destroy your reputation." That was the moment something settled inside me. I stopped feeling reactive, stopped feeling defensive. I wasn't scrambling anymore. I had the truth. I had evidence. And I wasn't going to protect someone who had already decided to burn everything down rather than admit what he'd done. That was when I understood it clearly. I didn't lose him. I got my life back. The fallout didn't explode all at once. It spread, slowly, publicly, in ways I couldn't control no matter how carefully I stayed quiet. By Monday morning, his version of events had taken root. Vague posts started appearing on social media. Nothing concrete, just suggestive enough to invite sympathy. When someone shows you their true colors, believe them. Some people confuse control with love. Grateful for real friends who see through manipulation. Comments poured in. Supportive, indignant. People asking what had happened. Others already convinced they knew. His best friend posted too, standing by him through his darkest hour. Abuse doesn't always look the way you expect it to. I didn't respond. I took screenshots. I documented everything. Then came the messages. At first, they were confused. What happened? He says you called off the wedding out of nowhere. Did you really go through his phone? I answered a few with the same line, copied and pasted until it felt numb. He's lying. I have proof. If he wants to tell people the truth, he knows where to find me. Most stopped asking after that. Some didn't. By Tuesday, the tone shifted. A message from an unknown number appeared on my phone late that night. "You're going to regret destroying his reputation. We know where you work." My stomach dropped, but only for a second. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to the lawyer. His reply came quickly. "Do not engage. If it continues, file a police report." Wednesday, his things were finally gone. His father came to pick up the last boxes. He looked exhausted, older than I remembered. "He's moved back home for now," he said quietly. "We're trying to get him into therapy. He refuses." Says we're all against him. I'm sorry, I said automatically. He shook his head. Don't apologize. You didn't do this. Then he hesitated. Can I ask you something? Of course. The hotel confrontation. Was it too harsh? His mother keeps wondering if we ambushed him. I didn't answer right away. No, I said finally. He would have lied otherwise. He already was. He needed to be caught with no room to rewrite the story. He nodded slowly. You're right. It was necessary. He left with the boxes. That night, I changed the locks. The final cracks in his story came later that week. His father started making calls to relatives, to close family friends. He didn't share details, just the truth. That his son had been unfaithful, that he'd lied, that he'd refused to take responsibility. People started connecting dots, asking questions he couldn't answer. The certainty around him softened. I still didn't post. I didn't need to. By the end of the week, the narrative had shifted, not in my favor, not against his, but toward reality. And reality, it turned out, was louder than any lie when given enough time. 5 weeks after the hotel room confrontation, I realized the story needed an ending. Not because everything was resolved, but because I was. The online noise got worse before it got quieter. He kept posting vague accusations about narcissistic abuse and gaslighting. His friends rallied around him loudly. A few people I cared about started to hesitate, unsure what to believe. So I posted once. Just once. I didn't include screenshots. I didn't mention escorting. I didn't drag his name through the mud. I wrote that I had ended my engagement because of documented infidelity and long-term deception. That refusing to marry someone who betrayed my trust wasn't abuse, it was self-respect. And that I would not be explaining further. That was it. The response was mixed. Some people finally understood. Others doubled down on defending him. I learned quickly who valued truth and who preferred comfort. His parents mattered more. His father made quiet phone calls, told family members what actually happened, without sensational details, just the facts. Betrayal, lies, refusal to take responsibility. Slowly his narrative unraveled. People began asking him questions he couldn't answer. 2 weeks later, he tried one last move. An email. 8 paragraphs. Apologies without accountability. Wedding pressure, confusion. Claims that he'd shut everything down and was getting help. Then the final line. I still love you. I want to marry you. Can we talk? I forwarded it to my lawyer. His response was immediate. Do not reply. So I didn't. A few days later, I heard through mutual friends that he was already dating someone new. Someone with money. Someone who fit his standards. Photos posted, smiles curated, history repeating itself with a different audience. My apartment feels different now. Lighter. I rearranged the furniture, repainted the bedroom, bought a new couch. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd missed the signs, how trust can blur into denial, how love can make you generous with doubt. The therapist asked if I regretted the hotel confrontation. No. He would have lied to my face. He already had. He needed witnesses. He needed nowhere to hide. The ring is still in my closet. Custom. Non-refundable. I thought about selling it, but that felt like turning grief into cash. Maybe someday I'll reset the stone. Or maybe I'll keep it as an expensive reminder to trust my instincts. People ask if I'll date again. I will. I'm not heartbroken over him anymore. I'm over the version of him I thought existed. The man I loved was a performance. The real one showed up when cornered. Here's what I learned. If something feels off, it probably is. If you find evidence, document first. Don't confront blindly. If someone makes you feel crazy for asking reasonable questions, that's not love. And if they get caught and still lie, they're not worth saving. I didn't get a fairy tale ending. I got something better. I got out. And that's worth celebrating.